All right, let's get right into it. What if I told you that you have a built-in superpower? A state of mind where you feel your absolute best and you perform at your absolute best. You've probably called it being in the zone, but scientists have another name for it: flow. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain and decode exactly what it is, how it works in your brain, and most importantly, how you can get more of it in your life. Just think about that for a second. Go back to a time when you were so locked into what you were doing that the entire world just faded away. That little voice of self-doubt in your head went completely silent. Hours probably felt like minutes. And every single move you made felt effortless, almost perfect. You know that feeling, right? That's what we're talking about. Well, that incredible experience has a name. It's called flow, and it's officially defined as an optimal state of consciousness where we feel and perform our best. It's when every action, every decision just seems to merge seamlessly into the next. This isn't just some fuzzy, feel-good idea, it's a real biological state, and it's the key to unlocking peak performance. And achieving that kind of peak performance often means having the right tools and strategies. So, speaking of which, we want to give a quick shout out to atomexpert.com. It was founded by an Amazon seller named Adam Gerbar, and it's all about getting real breakthroughs with AI through these live weekly night classes. We'll talk a little more about that later. But first, let's get a closer look at what it actually feels like to be in flow. So how do you know you're actually in flow? What are the telltale signs? Well, psychologists have studied this for decades, and they've identified a universal set of 6 characteristics that pop up every single time someone enters this powerful state. Let's break them down. Think of this as the ultimate checklist for being in the zone. First, you've got complete laser-like concentration on what's in front of you. Your actions and your awareness just merge. You stop thinking, you just do. That nagging inner critic, that voice of self-consciousness, it's gone. Poof, vanished. Time gets all weird, usually speeding up. You feel this incredible sense of control. And finally, the experience is what they call autotelic. It's a fancy word that just means the activity is its own reward. You're doing it just for the sake of doing it because it feels so amazing. For the longest time, that feeling, that description, was all we had to go on. But here's where things get really exciting. Thanks to modern brain imaging technology, we can now look under the hood. We can see exactly what's happening inside our brains when we're in flow. We're literally moving from just a metaphor to a repeatable mechanism. And this shift is a really big deal. As peak performance expert Stephen Kotler always says, psychology is an outside-in science. It describes what something feels like. But neurobiology, that's an inside-out science. It explains what's actually happening in there. And this changes everything, because once you understand the mechanism, you can start to trigger it on purpose. So what is this magic mechanism? It's a crazy-sounding term: transient hypofrontality. I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Transient means temporary. Hypo means to slow down or deactivate. And frontality refers to the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that houses your sense of self and your inner critic. So all it means is that for a little while, your inner critic literally goes quiet. The brain shuts it down to free up energy for lightning-fast, creative, and intuitive thinking. Okay, so if shutting down our inner critic is the goal, how in the world do we actually do it? Well, it turns out there's one main trigger that is considered the absolute golden rule of flow. It's all about finding a very, very specific sweet spot. And this is it. This is where the magic happens. Flow exists right on the razor's edge between boredom and anxiety. See, if a task is too easy compared to your skill level, you get bored. Your mind starts to wander. But if a task is way too hard, you get overwhelmed and anxious. The sweet spot, the flow channel, is right in the middle, where the challenge is just a little bit higher than your current skills. That's what forces your brain to pay attention. And believe it or not, researchers have actually put a number on it. The perfect sweet spot for triggering flow is when a challenge is roughly 4% greater than your skill set. Just think about that. It's not 10%, not 20%. It's this tiny little stretch. It's just enough to make you focus, but not so much that you freak out and snap. That very specific 4% gap is what commands your brain's full attention and kicks it into that state of transient hypofrontality we just talked about. Finding that 4% stretch, especially when things like AI are changing so fast, can be really tough. And that's exactly where a community like atomAIexpert.com comes into play. If you really want to learn and apply AI right now to get an edge, especially if you're an Amazon seller who wants to level up, this is the place to be. It's not some pre-recorded course. It's live, real-time learning that gets you real-world results. So let's talk about the payoff. Why should we even bother trying to find that 4% challenge? Well, because the rewards for getting into flow aren't just little 10 or 20% improvements. They are, and I'm not exaggerating here, absolutely mind-blowing. Let's just start with productivity. A massive, decade-long study by McKinsey looked at top executives and found they were up to 500% more productive when they were in a flow state. Let that sink in for a second. That means they could get done in a single day what their peers were taking all week, all 5 days to accomplish. And it's not just about doing more work. It's about learning faster, way faster. Research from the Department of Defense found that military snipers in a state of flow learned up to 240% faster than normal. Why? Because when your brain is that focused, it tags the information as super important and hardwires it into your long-term memory almost instantly. So what about creativity? Well, this is where flow really becomes a superpower. Studies show that creativity, problem-solving, and innovation can spike by over 400%. And it goes right back to that inner critic. When that nagging voice of doubt goes silent, your brain is free to make connections it wouldn't normally make. It can come up with wild, brilliant, game-changing ideas. Now here's maybe the best part of this whole thing. This isn't some rare gift that only a few lucky people have. Flow is universal. We are all, every single one of us, hardwired for peak performance. It's a skill you can train because the machinery is already built into our biology. You know, the psychologist William James nailed this over 100 years ago. He said, the key to everything is to get our nervous system to be our ally, not our enemy. So the question becomes, how do we tune our own biology to make flow easier to access? The research points to 3 surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful daily habits. A daily gratitude practice helps quiet down the brain's natural tendency to focus on the negative. A short, maybe 11-minute mindfulness practice helps calm your entire nervous system. And getting about 20 to 40 minutes of exercise flushes stress hormones out of your body. If you do these things regularly, you lower your baseline stress level, which makes it so much easier for your brain to slip into that perfect, hyper-focused flow state. And hey, if you're looking for a community that's all about applying these kinds of cutting-edge ideas to your work to find that 4% challenge, don't forget about those AI night classes. All you have to do is email adamaiexpert@gmail.com to join. It's a fantastic way to accelerate your learning and get some serious results fast. The main thing to take away from all this is simple. You are hardwired for flow. You are capable of so much more than you probably realize. The state of effortless perfection, of being in the zone, isn't some mystical thing that's out of reach. It's literally built into your biology, just waiting to be accessed. So the only real question left is, what will you unlock?